Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to work on OR processing. Now in FTB interactions, there are two aspects to OR processing. There's OR multiplication and there's actual OR processing. Multiplication is nice. It goes all the way up to 64x multiplication, which is really nice. But I think there should be a secondary thing. I think it's more important for me to go from crushed ore to dust than it is to go from raw ore to crushed ore. So I think today I'm going to start with the second half of ore processing, the actual, processing. And I've discovered there's an ME ORDICT storage bus. That sounds pretty cool. Never used this before. And it looks pretty easy to make. Some emerald plates, some pistons, and an ORDICT filter, which is an emerald plate and some zinc. So I can absolutely make this. One minor issue, or maybe it's a major issue, is that this MV combustion gen is barely able to power this AE2 system. I've had to remove all of these cells from this extra ME drive I made because it just makes the power consumption too high. And this is a maximum sized AE2 network for this amount of power. I can't add anything else. But this is just an MV combustion gen, so I can always upgrade this to HV, and then that's, 4 times the power. Anyway, that's a tangent. Let's get to OR processing. I think OR processing will allow me to do everything else that I want to do. OR processing in FTB interactions is quite similar to GTNH. There's not very many differences. In fact, I don't think there are any differences at all, at least conceptually. But unfortunately, all the multi-block versions of the OR processing machines are all IV, at least. I think they're all IV, but they're definitely all at least IV. I'm still an EV. I'm still at the very beginning of EV, and I don't think I'm going to do all of EV in one episode, because setting up AE2 is expensive and takes a lot of resources. But I'm going to put my OR processing here. This left side of the building I'm going to reserve for the OR multiplication. I don't think it's going to take that much space, but I'm not sure. So over here on the right side, this is where all the machines are going to go. I'm going to start with a maceration step. This takes it from ore into crushed ore, but also it takes it from clusters to crushed ore. And clusters are the output of the ore multiplication process. So this will work for ore multiplication and it will work for just general ores. So step 1 is maceration, or pulverization. I don't think I'm going to use the steam grinder because I do want byproducts. So I'm going to use the HV, or maybe the EV. No, probably the HV macerator. Then the next step will be to wash it or chem-bath it, depending on if it can be chem-bathed or not. Or in some cases, maceration again, depending on if I want the byproduct. After that will be sifting, or thermal centrifuging, or maceration again. This sounds familiar, right? I did make an ore processing guide for GTNH, and I'm basically doing the same thing. I'm doing things in layers. So sifting obviously gives me the final output. Thermal centrifuge gives me centrifuged ore, which gets macerated. Double maceration gets me purified ore, which gets centrifuged. And if I macerate on the previous step, I get impure piles, which can be centrifuged. Pretty standard GregTech stuff. So I'm going to make a couple of machines here and arrange them, and also combustion gens so I can power everything. And I'm going to see if I can route things around using this ORDICT storage bus, because that would be pretty nice. I'm actually going to do what I've done before and build some maintenance tunnels. I think that would be very helpful for expansion, because getting the AE2 cables around is kind of a pain. And I need to set up a P2P subnet, and I think it would be nice for me to be a little bit more organized with my AE2. So I'm going to spend some time digging. Here's my silly little maintenance tunnel. I tried to keep it in the same theme as the rest of the base. So here I have black terracotta, which is just a dark brown. It's not even black. But I have a P2P subnet controller here. And on the bottom face of this controller is a P2P tunnel. This is the input side. If you don't know how a P2P subnet works, the way it works is this covered cable subnet is a totally separate network than the main net. And on the bottom is a P2P cover, and what that does is it allows you to teleport things from one end to the other. In this case, I'm teleporting channels. So I'm taking the channels from the main net and using the P2P on this secondary subnet to teleport it across the base. This, in effect, allows me to use these skinny covered cables to transport the channels instead of having to use a dense cable and taking it all the way around. So it is 4 times cheaper to do this. Very much worth it. So I take this subnet cable all the way to my ore processing wing, which is over here. And this is the output of the P2P tunnel. And here is my mainnet. I should probably paint these, but I don't have an infinite spray can. I don't think that's even a thing in this pack, so I have to make a bunch of spray cans, and that's kind of annoying. But anyway, this right here is the mainnet, the same thing that the storage is connected to. And over here, I have an ME ORDICT storage bus. This leads to another subnet. This is the ore processing subnet. This storage bus has this ore dictionary tag. It has all ores, all clusters, all crushed ores. This includes purified and centrifuged ores as well, and all dusts that are pure or impure. And this is sticky, which means that whenever anything that satisfies these conditions enters my mainnet, it will only be allowed to be stored inside of this subnet. And that's what this interface is for, to receive the items. This ore processing subnet leads to each of the machines. And here I have storage buses acting as inputs to the machines. So the ore or dust or crushed ore or whatever enters the subnet, and it can only be stored inside of the machines. So they immediately get processed. This one over here is set to ore star and cluster star. So everything that is an ore or a cluster, and it's stickied, so they can only go into this macerator. The outputs are sent back into the network for further processing. This one, the ore washing plant, this has all crushed ores that are not purified and not centrifuged, meaning just the impure crushed ores. Those go here. They're washed, outputs are sent back into the net. This storage bus leads to a chemical bath, and so does the next one, actually. These ones are currently unfiltered. They're also not ORDICT storage buses. They're just regular storage buses. These are also stickied. So this one is going to be my sodium persulfate bath. This one is going to be my mercury bath. As I get ores that require that kind of processing, I will filter them in here. The reason this one is sticky and this ore washing plant is not is because this is kind of the default route. So anything that's sticky can only be processed the good way, and anything that isn't filtered is going to end up here. Just to save me the headache of filtering every single ore, because that just takes a while. Next, thermal centrifuge. This one is pretty similar. Storage bus with sticky card. This is going to be manually filtered. Another macerator over here. This one has an ORDICT storage bus with all of the crushed centrifuged ores and all of the crushed purified ores. This could be sticky, but it's not, just because of the purified part. So that's where the sifter comes in. This one is sticky and has a regular storage bus. So what's going to happen is I'm going to get some purified crushed ores that are siftable. Those can only go into the sifting machine. And then the ones that are not siftable are going to go in here, because I don't think there's any other valid spot. This should be the only one. And of course, all the outputs are just pushed straight into interfaces. And they get stored where on the network? Nowhere, actually. They get sent back to the main net. Oh, I haven't set that up. Something like this. I have another ME ORDICT storage bus. This one is set to gems, dusts, and anything that's not a pure or impure dust. And those just get sent back into storage. And cool. That's OreProc. Let's test it out. I have here some purified quartzite dust. If I throw this into storage, it won't go in. Hello? Yeah, it's because I'm a dumbass. I forgot to add the centrifuge. So here's a centrifuge with the ORDICT set to anything that's a dust that's pure or impure. So now this should work. Let's try it again. If I put in my quartzite dust, it should be centrifuging. Perfect. So this works. We have ore processing. That was pretty quick, actually. Now I do want to multiply my ores. That would be very, very nice. Technically, I could go all the way to 64x already. So let me show you the entire process, right? Step 1, we take our ore, and then we chem bath it in liquid starlight. You've seen me do this plenty of times before. Next, we put it into a chem reactor with mana and life essence. We'll favorite everything and take a look at all of these things and see if I actually can make them. This gets us concentrated blood shards. These go into an arc furnace with blazing pyrotheum, getting us a little bit of phosphoric acid back, which is whatever, and an iron crystal. The iron crystal is sent to an autoclave with UU matter to make ore clumps. And finally, the ore clumps, they get crucibled to make native iron clusters. I don't know if I want to bother with the crucible step because automating Thaumcraft is famously not a fun experience, so I might just smelt it. I might take 32x instead of the 64x. 32x is still very generous. So this gets smelted, which means I need a multi-smelter. That's fine. And then the clusters get macerated, and then it's regular ore processing from that point. So let's look at these materials, right? The first two, mana and life essence. Mana can be made in a light well with mana-enriched eggs. You're gonna notice that chickens are the solution to most, if not all of these. So mana-enriched eggs come from mana chickens. Mana chickens are an infusion with resonating gems, Vintium, and mana dust. Vintium is not totally clear to me whether or not I can actually get Vintium, but if not, I'm gonna have to source mana some other way. The Vintium ore appears to only spawn on Euclides Prime, so it might just be locked until then. I might have to source my mana in some other way, because yeah, I really don't see any other way to get Vintium. So already, this is looking impossible. Well, not impossible, just a lot more effort, because no chicken means I need to figure out some other source of mana. I could do this, the mana extrapolator. I think this converts Botania mana into wizardry mana, which is what I actually need. And yeah, that is what this looks like. So this might be something I can craft. So that's mana, either the chicken or the mana extrapolator. The chicken is obviously better, but I don't think I can actually do that yet. Next up, life essence, digital mob agonizer. That is one solution. It's not a very good solution. It's quite expensive energetically to make life essence this way. But I can also extract blood apples. And blood apples come from bloody chickens. And bloody chickens, I can almost make. I need a chicken, I need infinity reagent, which I can make. I need demon blood shards, and I need liquid nightmares. The demon blood shard is actually pretty easy to make. I need a weak blood shard, which I can get using a bound blade from blood magic. And I need demon will crystals, which I don't think I've ever made before, but it doesn't look too difficult considering it's only 2 quests away in the blood magic tab, so it's probably doable. The liquid nightmares though needs either grains of infinity or nightmare enriched eggs, and it's definitely wise for me to invest in a nightmare chicken. This is the one I looked at before, and I am able to make it. It's just a little bit annoying, but it should be not too bad, just a little bit of a grind. It does need infusion though, which I think I still need to unlock. But cool, the nightmare chicken is a valid solution here. So if I can get life essence and mana, that's a doubling of my ore. Cool. Next, blazing pyrotheum. This needs pyrotheum dust, which I can get directly from a chicken, from the primal chicken, but this needs vitriolic copper sulfate, which I can get from another chicken, or I can get from another planet. I'm pretty sure there's a planet where this stuff is what the oceans are made of. And there's no other way to get this. And of course the chicken, unsurprisingly, needs you to go to Euclides first. So primal chicken is not a way for me to get pyrotheum dust just yet. I can of course just set up a line and mix it. And this is actually not too bad. Redstone, sulfur, blaze powder, and brine. All of these I can generate. Redstone, I need some sort of glowstone source, but I think there's a way to do that with faint amaranth. Sulfur, I'm sure there has to be some easy way to get infinite sulfur, but I'm not sure what it is. Oh, here. Centrifuging blaze powder is one way, but there's tons and tons of ways to get sulfur. And of course, brine is from mechanism, from the thermal evaporator that I built recently. So that's pyrotheum. That's another doubling. It should actually not be too bad. I just need to make a passive line to generate pyrotheum dust, and it might be kind of slow because of the brine. And finally, UU matter. There's a chicken for it. And I also get a bunch of other pretty nice stuff. This comes from an EV centrifuge, which I can make now, and Dew of the Void. Dew of the Void, I can make the intended way, like this, but there's also a chicken. And this chicken is the resonating chicken. I do need to make one batch of Dew of the Void kind of legit, but besides that, I need a resonating gem, which is a terrestrial agglomeration recipe, and an infused ender pearl. This is very easy to make. This is actually seemingly the easiest thing to make. I just need to look into Dew of the Void. This needs the vat, also some dark steel, not so bad. Some grains of piesality, which is okay. Grains of the end, which is a little bit less okay, but should still be doable. And nutrient distillation, which is chill. Surprisingly, the UU matter is the easiest thing to get out of all of these. Well, actually, the blazing pyrotheum is, but the UU matter is second place. So that's cool. But to build out infra, I need materials. So, I'm just going to process everything I have. And if I need more, I'm just going to go mine more. So, where to start? Probably with mana and life essence. Let's start with mana. I'm going to have to make a mana extrapolator. Let me unfavorite all this other garbage. So, mana extrapolator. What does this actually need? Spectre wood. Great. I've been putting this off because I have not been looking forward to this. Spectre wood requires ectoplasm. This comes from spirits, which have a low chance of spawning when a mob is killed. And one easy way to get a bunch of spirits that I've noticed is killing chickens. In my breeding process, I take the suboptimal chickens and I put them in a little hole and then I execute them all. And pretty often I see 1 or 2 spirits. So that might be a way. But I also see that you can summon them with roots. So that's probably the easiest. This does need some sort of magical damage, which I need to look into. I'm pretty sure Thaumcraft has an answer for me using one of the foci for the Caster's Gauntlet. So let me do a little bit of research.